Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this video, guys. My name is Yaqut Zaman, and here's another introduction to a book. So someone's requested that I do a little intro on the book Taqreeb Tahzheeb. Now this is a very famous book when it comes to Ilm al-Rijal. Let me just give you a little understanding of Ilm al-Rijal. Now if you imagine you have a timeline, and this timeline is basically from the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So let's say from 0 Hijrah all the way till in today's time, 14, hundreds. This is obviously the Islamic calendar. Now, what happened in history was that people were very particular about the statements of the Prophet ﷺ, so much so that they would memorize the people that used to narrate the narrations. So you'd actually have a statement, and then each statement would have, let's say, a companion who narrated it to a tabi'i, follow of the companion who narrated to a taba tabi'i, etc, etc. So what used to happen was people used to actually preserve not only the statement of the hadith, as we call it, but they would also memorize who narrated it, each and every single individual. And then came the point where they would actually critically analyze each narrator. So after the Sahaba, they would critically analyze each narrator just to make sure that this narration is valid, it's up to scratch, that we can accept it, we can act upon it. Otherwise, if there's someone who has a tainted history, or some sort of a bad record or anything, and all of this can be studied in Usul Hadith if you're interested in that, then the narration is not acted upon. Anyway, so what happened was, over history, what used to happen was scholars began to compile. So let's say, imagine this is 100, 200, 300. Sorry for the bad writing, guys, but inshallah I'll get used to using the pad. So these are the hundreds. Now what happened basically was, over the years, scholars began to work. Actually, I made off scale, so let me just delete that, bring that all the way over to here. So let's say it's up to there. So you had the famous books of hadith. Now there is a misconception that people think, oh, books of hadith were written, like Imam Bukhari came over here and put B for Imam Bukhari, came over here, and then like Imam Muslim, he came over here, so M is over there, and Imam Tirmidhi came over here, and Imam Abu Dawood came over there, and Imam Ibn Majah came over there, and Nasai. So even though these scholars did come later on, the chains have always existed. So all these scholars did basically were, they compiled hadith in a systematic way, and recorded the chains all the way to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, that's what they did. Okay, so that's a little overview of narrations, and inshallah I'll make a video in more detail on this topic of narrations and how it was recorded over history and the scholars, because these are just a handful of scholars who compiled it. There's actually many more scholars, hundreds and hundreds of scholars who actually were compiling the narrations in book form way before these guys. So that's just something I thought I'd give you a bit of an overview of. Anyway, so basically what happened was, these 6 books, these are 6 major books of hadith: Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Ibn Majah, Nasai, Tirmidhi, Abu Dawood. So along came a scholar in the 600s over here. He lived about over here. His name was Al-Maqdisi, Abdul Ghani Al-Maqdisi. Okay, Abdul Ghani Al-Maqdisi, and he wrote a book called Al-Kamal. I'll write in English. Kamal. This was the name of his book, Al-Kamal. Now, Al-Kamal was a book which was kind of one of its kind at that time. Pioneering book. Other books were written before that, many books. But this was a very good book, because what this had done is taken all these 6 books, and every single narrator in these 6 books, what he tried to do was try to list a catalogue of their status. In other words, whether we can accept them, whether we can't accept them, Right, that's what he did. So a whole big book catalog, and he listed from Alif all the way till Ya the names of narrators. Now let me give you an example. This is a book known as Sunan Abi Dawud. Right, now if I was to go, let's say, somewhere in the middle, okay, over here, so you can see this. So this has a hadith number 791, and then it has these chains. So this chain basically means this, that the author of this book heard this hadith from this person here, Musa ibn, let me just put the pen on, Musa ibn Ismail, and he heard this hadith from Talib bin Habib, he heard this hadith from Abdurrahman ibn Jabir, he heard this hadith from Hazm ibn Abi Ubay ibn Abi Ka'b, and he heard this from Mu'adh ibn Jabal. Okay, so the narrator actually has a chain all the way till this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he says, وَهُوَ يُصَلِّي بِقَوْمٍ, whilst he was praying with people, Salat al-Maghrib, Maghrib Salat. فَقَالَ قَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم, the Prophet ﷺ said, يَا مُعَاذ لَا تَكُنْ فَتَّانًا, O Mu'adh, don't become a means of tribulation for the people. فَإِنَّهُ يُصَلِّي وَرَاءَكَ الْكَبِيرِ, because behind you pray the elderly, da'if, the weak, dhul haja, those who have needs, or musafir, and travelers. So basically he told him, when you're an imam, when you're leading salat, then make sure you pray salat in a moderate way without making it too difficult upon the followers behind you. So this chain has actually been recorded by Imam Abu Dawud with all these people. Now, so these are the three narrators, these are the Sahaba here. So these are the three narrators, and let's say, for example, you want to look for Musa ibn Ismail. Is he a valid narrator? Is he a weak narrator? Talib ibn Habib, is he valid? Is he weak? So the way you do that is that you go to the book Tahzheeb or Kamal, and you'll actually find in there the name of the narrator, and you'll find a biography of him, short biography, and what scholars have said. Scholars from here, okay, all the way up to here, or maybe even less than that, depending. So what scholars have said about this person, if they're valid, if they've had a good record, a bad record, good memory, bad memory, etc., etc. And you can actually identify the classification of this hadith. Okay, so some books are classified according to everyone as being sahih, authentic. For example, these two books, Bukhari and Muslim, but some of them actually aren't. Yeah, so these other four books, there's hadith in there which may be sahih, which may be weak, etc. So this is what Imam al-Maqdisi has done. Now, the problem with the book was it was long, it had many things in there which were not really relevant for many students. So another scholar came along in roughly about this era, okay, and his name was al-Mizzi. Okay, al-Imam al-Mizzi, who is famous scholar of hadith, father-in-law of Imam ibn Kathir. You might have heard quite a lot of things about him. So anyway, he's got many books that he's written, and one of them, what he did was he took this Kamal and he refined it. Okay, so he called his book Tahzheeb Kamal, Tahzheeb al-Kamal. Okay, so he's refined that book. Unfortunately he didn't complete it, but at that time another scholar was about by the name of, let me give another color to him, Al-Hafidh al-Mughal-Ta'i. So Mughal-Ta'i, and he took this book and he completed it. Eventually reaching 13 volumes. Ooh, 13 volume book Imam Mughal-Ta'i has completed from Mizzi's book and then Maqdisi's book. Now obviously that's something which is quite difficult to be able to read for everyone. So Imam Dhahabi comes along in this era as well. Imam al-Dhahabi, and he shortens it. He makes it very brief, makes it short so that people can benefit from it more easier. So it becomes Mukhtasar version. Mukhtasar version of it is made. And then many other scholars come and they do work on one of these, or But what I want to show you here is the book that we're going to be looking at today, and that is Tahzheeb al-Kamal. So there was a scholar in this era by the name of Ibn Hajar. So Imam Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, he came along. He's taken Imam Mizzi's, let me just move this a bit up. So Imam Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, he comes along and he's roughly in the 800s, and he takes this book that's been written by Al-Mizzi and then completed later on by others, and he's basically sort of like trying to condense it. So he calls this book Tahzheeb at-Tahzheeb. Tahzheeb at-Tahzheeb. Now this is not the book that we're going to be looking at today, but this is basically the kind of like shortened version, the abridged version from the 13-volume one. He just summarizes it into 6 volumes. And he's added some extra things in there as well, which he found missing in the original works. But people are still finding the 6-volume one a bit too long. So what he does is he writes a shorter version than that, which he calls a Taqreeb of the Tahzheeb. So Taqreeb is like to make it more accessible, to make it closer. So this isn't simply just one volume, it's like a handbook, and it just simply just gives you the name and the grading of the narrator, as we're going to see a bit later on. So it's kind of different from the previous one, where the Tahzheeb al-Tahzheeb actually contains more details of the narrators themselves, and this one simply doesn't mention any details, just tells you what's the ruling of these. So Kamal, right, you know, he kind of writes the original, so Kamal al-Tahzheeb is the original book by the Maqdisi, and then you got Mizzi comes along and he does work on it, calls it Tahzheeb al-Kamal, and then Mughaldai comes, completes it, Dhahabi and others as well, and Ibn Hajar rahimahullah actually comes along and he just writes down Tahzheeb, Tahzheeb, and then Taqreeb al-Tahzheeb. Alright, so I hope that makes sense. And that's the book that we're concerned with at the moment. This is the version that I've got in front of you guys. You can see here. Okay, there's other versions out there as well, but I've just chosen this one just to show you how it works. Now, there's just 2 things you need to understand about this book before you actually know how to use the book. The first is that he uses his own specific terminology. So what he's basically done, if I actually go onto the page, so basically what he does, he categorizes each narrator that he's collected in this. He's categorized them into 12 categories. So you can see this, Al-Awwalu, the first, is the Sahaba. So wherever a Sahabi's name will come, he'll just say, right, this guy's a Sahabi. Number 2 is those people who have been authenticated as reliable, the highest level of reliable narrators after the Sahaba. So he uses terms like Awthaq and Nas, or he repeats a word, Thiqa, Thiqa. Okay, so he uses that's a sign that this guy's like top of the table. Third, he uses another word which is Thiqa, so he uses it once, or Thabat or Adal. This shows like number 2 on the table. Number 4, he says a person who's slightly less than that, so he'll say Saduq, La Ba'sa, Laysa bihi Ba's. All of these indicate that these people are reliable, but it's just that the level of reliability varies. Fifth, he is for a person who's lower than the 4th level, so he'll say Saduqun Sayyi'ul Hifth. So he's Saduq, he's a very truthful person, trustworthy person. Sayyi'ul Hifth, his memory wasn't that reliable as the previous ones, but it doesn't mean that his memory was like ours, that we forget things, we can't remember what we had last night. So their memory is very good, but for their, relatively speaking, so that. Or some of these words. Number 6 is he uses the word maqbool, accepted, haythu yutaba', that other mutaba' narrations are sought to strengthen him. Number 7 is mastur, means unknown, we don't really know much about him. Yeah, so he might be good, might be bad. Number 8, if he mentions something like da'if, weak. Okay, and if you studied usul hadith, you'll know that da'if does not necessarily mean that the narration is absolutely written off. All it means is that this is a specific terminology that's used. Okay, number 9, majhul. Right, this is like less than weak on the table. Number 10, matruk, he's left, his hadith isn't taken, or saqit. Number 11, kadhib, or uttuhim al-kizb, he's been accused of lying in his life, just generally lying in society. And number 12, this guy's a liar in hadith, he's a fabricator of hadith, the worst type. So these last few types are the types where the hadith actually loses its value. The chain loses its value and the hadith is not accepted according to scholars. So this is the 12 kind of categories that he puts all the narrators into. And then he has, that's the first thing. And then he has the second is the letters that he uses. So he uses certain acronyms or letters, to signify which book the narrators appear in. Okay, so let me just give you an example of some of these and then I'll show you what letters represent what books. So for instance, right, have a look at this here. So you have here the word in Arabic tamiz, tamiz, tamiz. So that has a certain significance. You have ta and qaf. So Al-Husayn ibn Mahdi ibn Malik, he has a ta next to his name, a qaf next to his name. So I'll explain to you what the ta represents, what the qaf represents, and remember all of these words, these acronyms that he uses here. What they basically mean is that this narrator narrates hadith which are recorded in these particular books. Okay, so the dal, ain, sin, Husayn ibn Maymun, kha, ta, mim, 4. The letter 4 represents something as well. Not this in brackets 3. That's just to show the little footnotes about this. So if you look down the footnotes, yeah, that just shows that. So you have 3 columns here. The first column is the catalog number or the narrator number in this book, and then you have the acronyms which represents which books they're mentioned in, and a short biography of the narrator. And it's very, very short. He's written it, like I said, he's abridged it or abbreviated it from 2 or 3 books, so it's very short. Okay, so that's basically what you have. And if you look in this book, you'd actually see, if I go right to the end, you can actually see over 8,000, 9,000 people that have been mentioned in this book. Okay, so that's the first thing. So there are 2 things that you need to remember. Now the narrators are listed from alif all the way till ya, and then after ya you actually have narrators according to their kunyas, Abu and So the Abus come, and then you have the Ibns and the because sometimes in chains narrators are listed in that fashion. Okay, so that's that. So let me just give you a little a key to the acronyms. First of all, let's start off with Bukhari. Now Imam Bukhari has several books that he's written. So what he does, he actually mentions 6 of those books. Okay, so if he says Kha, that means it's in his Sahih collection. The Sahih collection is the famous hadith book that most of us know. If he mentions Kha and Ta together, then that means that this is actually in Sahih Bukhari, but it's mu'allaq, it's in the headings, one of the headings. If he mentions Ba, Ha, okay, then, or Ba Kha, sorry, Ba Kha, then that means it's in Imam Bukhari's book, the Adab al-Mufrad. If he mentions Ain Kha, Ain and then a Kha next to it, then that simply means it's in Imam Bukhari's book called Af'al al-Ibad. If he mentions Ra, it means that it's in a book called Juz'ul Qira'ah. And if he mentions the letter Ya, then it simply means it's in a book known as Juz'u Raf'ul Yadayn. So those are the acronyms for Imam Bukhari. So if you were to look through the book, and you find, for example, Kha, okay, so that means Sakhar ibn Juwayriyah, right? That's his name. Abu Nafi is his nickname. Mawla Bani Tamim. He was Mawla, he was someone who accepted Islam at the hands of Bani Tamim, or ex-slave of theirs, according to what Mawla means. Qala Ahmad, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal says he's a thiqa. Remember the double? That's second in the list out of the 12. Qala al-Qattan, Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qattan says ذهب كتابه ثم وجده فتكلم فيه لذلك من السابع. He actually considers him in group 7. So kha is mentioned over there, and you have bakh, like we said. Okay, so bakha means it's in adab al-mufrad. Okay, bakha, and like that other right as well. Let's see if we can find anyone else, any other. Okay, khata is there, so it means this is mu'allaq. Sadaqa ibn Abi Imran al-Kufi is in Bukhari, but it's in mu'allaq form. And Qadi al-Ahwaz, he was the judge of the city of Ahwaz. Saduq, so that's quite high up in the list. Third, min as-sabi'ati, okay, from the 7th. From the 7th actually means another 12 categories. Okay, I didn't mention that to you, but you can look it up in the introduction. So according to the scholars, there's 12 categories of narrators, like Imam Bukhari and these guys are at the end. All it just simply means is with regards to the timeline. So further you are from the timeline, the further you go, and it goes up to here. So the further you go from the timeline, the more, the lower you are in the list. Starts from the Sahaba, who are number 1, and then Tabi'een, senior Tabi'een, Taba Tabi'een, and it goes all the way. So it's just a table for the timeline. That's all it is. It doesn't mean that their status is different. It just means that. So let me just quickly show you this other table. So Amma Tabaqat, these are called the Tabaqat. So top of the list are the Sahaba, they come first in chronological order. Then Kibar Tabi'een, the senior Tabi'een like Ibn Musayyib. Then the middle Tabi'een like Hassan al-Basri. Then you have the Tabi'een that come after them like Imam Zuhri. Okay, so that's number 4. And then you have number 5, the small Tabi'een, the junior Tabi'een. Like for example Al-A'mash, and then you have those who are at their time and they haven't met any of the Sahaba like Ibn Jurayj, and then you have those who are the followers of the Tabi'een, the senior ones like Imam Malik, Thawri. Then you have the middle ones like Ibn Uyayna. Then you have the ones that came after them chronologically, or the Atba' Tabi'een, the young ones like Imam Shafi'i, Harun, or Yazid ibn Harun. Then you have the senior ones who took from them, like Ahmad ibn Hanbal. And then you have number 11, those middle ones after them, like Imam Bukhari. And then you have the 12th group, who are Imam Tirmidhi and others. So as you can see, these 12 are actually in chronological order. Okay, so the chronological order, and they don't have anything to do with whether they are weak or strong. It's just to do with where they came and who they took from, and that's very important. Sometimes you want to know if one narrator has taken from another narrator or not, time frame and all that. Okay, so that's in Sahih Bukhari, and then there's a list for Muslim as well, and Abu Dawood, and then there's for Tirmidhi and Nasa'i. Okay, so I won't make all of them. I won't list all of them. What I will do is I'll just show you a brief image of it, so you guys can pause the screen and you can use that, and inshallah maybe that will be useful to you. So here they all are. So you can take an image of this, a screen image if you want. Try to fit them all in. Okay, these are them. So these are the different books that. So the 6 major scholars, who are Bukhari, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, Muslim, Abu Dawood, and Ibn Majah, and their various other books which some of you may be familiar with, some of you may not be familiar with. Okay, but those are the books, and those are the acronyms which are mentioned in the book. Now, besides these, I just want to mention another acronym which he mentions. If he says the letter Ain, what's that, Ain shape, then what he means by that is it's mentioned in all 6 books, all 6 Sahih books or Hadith books. Yeah, meaning Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, etc. If he mentions 4, now 4 is, see, I should have written Ain a bit different, but 4 is basically like this, like a zigzag. Yeah, 4. So if he mentions 4, what that means, it's mentioned in the 4 books of Sunnah. So Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, and Nasai. Okay, so in these 4 books, it's mentioned. It's not mentioned in Bukhari or Muslim. So that's if he mentions that. And finally, just one more word that he uses. He sometimes uses the word tamyiz. Now, tamyiz simply means to distinguish. And the reason he mentions this is because that particular narrator that he mentions it next to is not in any of these books. So he's not in any of the books or 6 books that I mentioned. So why does he mention his name? His name is mentioned so that people don't get confused with a narrator in this book. So let me just give you an example of that, how that works. So let's say you had, let's just find one here, a few early on. Here's one, Salih. Let's get a pen. So it says here, Tamyiz, Salih bin Mismar Basri, Sakan al-Jazira, Maqbool, Qadim min al-Sabi'ati. So his name is mentioned so you don't get his name mixed up with this guy's name, because he is also Salih bin Mismar, but he's Sulami, and he is mentioned, or his narrations are mentioned in Muslim and Tirmidhi. But this guy here, Salih bin Mismar Basri, he is not in any of the books. His name is similar, so don't get them confused. This guy is a Saduq, and this guy is Maqbool. So this is high on the list, this guy's low on the list. So just to not get confused, he mentions these names as well, which is a brilliant thing as well for finding narrators. Okay, so now what I want to do is I just want to give you an example of how to search for a narrator in one of the books. So remember, this catalog, Taqreeb, is primarily for studying the books of Sihah Sitta, 6 books. So let's go to Abu Dawood then. We're not going to go to Bukhari, Muslim, because all the narrators are considered to be of the highest level anyway, or accepted anyway. So let's go over here. So let's look for example, Musa ibn Ismail. Right, so we want to find Musa ibn Ismail. Is he a valid narrator? What do the scholars say about him? So we go to the book Taqreeb, we look for the name Musa, we look according to the alphabet. So so Musa bin Dawood, it's going to be higher up then. Musa bin Ibrahim, Musa bin Ayyub, Musa bin Ismail. Here is, okay, so here's Musa bin Ismail, and المنقري بسكون الميم وسكون النون أو بكسر الميم وسكون النون وفتح القاف منقري. That's how to pronounce it. So he brings that as well to correct pronunciation. أبو سلمة التبوذكي بفتح المثنات وضم الموحدة وسكون الواو وفتح المعجمة. That's just saying how you should pronounce this. بفتح المثنات, so the ta is fatha, وضم الموحدة, and the ba is dhamma, and sukun al-waw, the waw is pronounced as sukun, tabu, and then fath al-mu'jama, the, and dhaki. So mashhur bi kunyatihi, he's famous with his nickname Abu Salama. That's what he's famous for in the books of hadith. Thiqatun thabatun, so he's quite strong in the list of 12, quite strong. Min sighar al-tasi'ah, from the short of the tasi'ah, like I said to you, are the other 12 categories, not to do with how strong they are or not, just to do with where they come in the timeline. وَلَا الْتِفَاتَ إِلَى قَوْلِ ibn Khirash, and then he adds a little footnote here and says, you don't need to be concerned about what Ibn Khirash says about him. تَكَلَّمَ النَّاسِ فِيهِ, yeah, that, he's criticized. No, ignore that. In other words, this is just a statement which is not valid according to the muhaddithin, and this is when he died. So like this, you guys can have a go. You can get yourself one of the 6 books of hadith, and you can investigate these if you're into this, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair, guys. If you have any questions at all on this book or any other topic, or you want me to make a video on another book, then inshallah put it in the comments below, and if I get chance I'll make another video. Again, guys, Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khair, guys, for all of your support. Without your support, I wouldn't have been able to produce the videos that I've put up on my YouTube channel. And there is so much more that I really want to do. And without the support of you guys who are patrons, generously supporting this channel, I've been able to get myself a camera, which as you guys can see, the quality of this camera, mic system, software. I've been able to hire an editor. So what do I want to do? I want to make lots and lots and lots of more videos for beginners, for intermediate, advanced, in the subjects like Arabic and fiqh and hadith and tafsir and aqidah and all those other things as well. And for this to happen, again, this channel needs support. So if you guys want to become patrons and support this channel, then check out the link below. Also, if you do become patrons, you'll have access to videos that I don't put up on my normal YouTube channel. So check that out, inshallah. And there's most other perks as well that you guys can benefit from. And if you want to access this channel through social media, we've got Twitter, we've got Instagram, Facebook page, and other things as well that you can visit. So jazakumullah khair again, guys. Thank you very much for your support. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khair for watching this video. I hope to see all of you guys. If you guys are interested, please leave us feedback, get in contact with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.